Welcome to Cognitive Abyss, a space where we explore the subconscious mind, the hidden mechanisms behind your thoughts, and the illusions that shape your reality. This is not a podcast about motivation. This is a journey into the parts of your mind you usually try to avoid. Listen carefully, because once you notice these patterns, you can't unsee them. You wake up as if fully aware, moving through the day, making choices, solving problems, reacting to situations. Yet, for most of these moments, consciousness is merely a passenger, a witness to processes already in motion, controlled by patterns buried deep in the mind. Most decisions occur before you notice them. Impulses, instincts, and subconscious habits shape your behavior. Consciousness interprets outcomes after the fact, crafting a narrative that claims responsibility but often arrives too late to be the true author. Consider the last impulse-driven decision. How often did you pause, analyze, or weigh alternatives? Rarely. Patterns learned over decades, emotional responses, and instinctive reactions dominate your life, while the conscious mind observes and rationalizes. The feeling of control is comforting. Your brain fills gaps, constructs coherence, and creates the story of agency. You feel competent and in command, unaware that the autopilot has quietly been steering, even in complex decisions without alerting consciousness. Awareness works like a spotlight on a stage, illuminating only fragments of action. Behind the curtain, countless processes, emotional, cognitive, instinctive, determine reactions. Consciousness interprets and explains, never fully initiating the movements it thinks it commands. Even moral judgments, social interactions, and spontaneous choices are influenced by hidden processes. Awareness sees only the result and crafts a plausible explanation. You perceive authorship, but much of your life is orchestrated before conscious thought arrives. Think about times you justified a decision. Did you notice the subtle influences, the triggers, or biases shaping it? Most likely not. The mind orchestrates events in layers inaccessible to observation, leaving consciousness to take credit retroactively. This knowledge is humbling yet enlightening. Awareness is limited but can serve as a lens to observe the autopilot at work. Noticing patterns, reactions, and repeated habits reveals the invisible architecture of your mind and your own internal world. Moments of déjà vu, unexplainable urges, and instinctive choices hint at hidden operations. Your mind functions on multiple levels simultaneously. Consciousness perceives only a small fraction, the rest unfolding in silent, efficient processes beneath perception. Understanding this is not meant to paralyze, but to awaken curiosity. Awareness, even if partial, allows you to notice the underlying mechanisms. Each recognition becomes a tool, a subtle shift toward insight, revealing how much of what you think is truly yours. As you observe these patterns, small insights emerge. Habits, emotional triggers, and automatic reactions reveal the autopilot. The more you notice, the more apparent it becomes that consciousness is only a narrator, rarely the driver, interpreting rather than deciding. This recognition is both unsettling and liberating. Awareness may be limited, but it provides perspective. Even a small glimpse into the hidden machinery of thought offers the chance to question, to reflect, and to understand the forces guiding behavior. If consciousness is largely observational, free will appears fragile. The decisions you think you initiate may already be determined by subconscious computations. The mind crafts the story afterward, maintaining the illusion of agency, keeping coherence intact. The brain hides the mechanics of decision-making with remarkable skill. outcome of it, justification plausible, and the central undeniable. The narrative comforts, concealing the unseen, autonomous operations guiding life from behind the curtain. Yet curiosity arises naturally when these patterns are noticed. Not the casual curiosity of distraction, but a profound observation of the mind itself. Seeing the autopilot allows you to trace influences, detect repeated patterns, and glimpse processes previously invisible. Imagine yesterday's decisions. How many were truly conscious? How many were guided by instinct, habit, or pre-existing patterns? Layers of mental operations shape every action, while consciousness interprets, narrates, and reassures without full awareness. Each small revelation challenges perception. You notice subtle automaticity in gestures, thoughts, and emotional reactions. Consciousness is mostly an observer, constructing explanations for actions already initiated by deeper layers of the mind. This insight can be disconcerting. The self you identify with, the choices you claim to make, may be heavily influenced by processes operating without awareness. Identity, agency, and free will all seem less concrete under this scrutiny. The autopilot is efficient, using past experience, predictive patterns, and instincts to guide decisions. Consciousness interprets outcomes after the fact, creating a coherent narrative, reinforcing the sense of being in command while rarely initiating the events. Patterns become evident in reflection. Repeated behaviors, automatic emotional responses, and prescripted thoughts demonstrate the mind's complex autonomy. Consciousness interprets, organizes, and explains, but the real orchestration occurs unseen. Observation alone changes perception. Even limited awareness allows recognition of the hidden structures shaping thought and action. Consciousness may not control, but it can notice, question, and reflect on patterns previously invisible, providing a subtle form of insight. The mind's autonomy becomes clearer with every reflection. Your sense of self, choices, and perceived agency are filtered through unseen processes. Consciousness interprets and explains, but rarely originates decisions it assumes to own. You notice the interplay of automaticity and narrative. Every instinct, reaction, and judgment is guided by mechanisms beyond direct awareness. Consciousness observes, interprets, and crafts stories after the fact, constructing coherence from layers of hidden activity. Awareness is not eliminated but reframed. Recognizing the autopilot provides a perspective to examine habits, responses, and decisions. Insight arises not from control, but from seeing the mechanisms at work beneath conscious thought. Observation alone does not grant power, yet it is transformative. Recognizing patterns shifts perspective, revealing influences you never noticed. Awareness acts as a subtle guide, highlighting where choices are automatic and where attention can intervene. Each reflection deepens understanding. Thoughts, feelings, and actions are filtered through multiple layers simultaneously. Consciousness only perceives fragments, yet constructs the illusion of wholeness, explaining the results of processes it cannot fully access. The autopilot governs even complex behaviors, including social interactions, moral judgments, and emotional reactions. Consciousness rarely initiates, but narrates after the fact, creating a story of deliberate action that conceals the underlying processes. Noticing the autopilot is not despair. It is empowerment through recognition. Awareness, though limited, allows observation of recurring patterns, offering the opportunity to question assumptions and subtly redirect attention toward understanding hidden mental operations. Patterns of automaticity become visible over time. Habits, instinctive responses, and emotional triggers reveal a mind working independently of conscious intention. Observation alone provides clarity and insight into how the subconscious orchestrates daily life. This awareness uncovers subtle layers of influence. Consciousness narrates after events occur, providing explanations and rationalizations. By noticing these processes, insight emerges, showing how behavior is shaped before awareness has a chance to intervene. Reflection highlights the illusion of control. Every action, thought, and emotion may be pre-shaped by unseen processes. Consciousness interprets events, constructs stories, and maintains coherence, often without realizing how much occurs beyond its reach. Even complex decisions, like planning moral reasoning or creative thought, are influenced by deep layers of the mind. Awareness only observes the results, giving the impression of control, while patterns and instincts operate in silence. Observation allows subtle influence, not by overriding the autopilot, but by noticing patterns, triggers, and repeated behaviors. Awareness acts as a lens, highlighting where choices are automatic and where intervention is possible. Each recognition challenges assumptions. Habits, unconscious judgments, and emotional reactions become visible. The mind's hidden architecture is vast and intricate, operating beneath consciousness while stories are constructed to explain it. Awareness itself is powerful, even in small doses. By noticing repetition, predicting emotional responses, or questioning impulses, you gain insight into the hidden workings of thought and the subtle mechanisms shaping your reality. Understanding the autopilot does not mean total control, but clarity. Consciousness can act as observer, analyst, and narrator, bringing attention to patterns previously hidden and creating opportunities for intentional reflection. Life appears less random once the autopilot is recognized. Events, reactions, and decisions follow patterns shaped by experience, biology, and subconscious computations. Consciousness interprets these patterns, crafting explanations that feel deliberate. Moments of surprise, unexplainable emotion, or instinctive reaction are clues to the mind's depth. Each instance reveals the layers of autonomy at work beneath the surface where consciousness has little direct influence. The more you observe, the more subtle processes emerge. Automatic responses, prescripted thoughts, and hidden triggers show how behavior is orchestrated. Consciousness narrates but rarely initiates, creating a comforting but partial story. This realization is both unsettling and liberating. The self you perceive, your perceived choices, and your sense of agency are influenced heavily by the unseen mind. Awareness allows recognition, insight, and the first steps toward understanding the hidden architecture of thought. Observation deepens insight. You begin to notice repeated patterns in thought, emotion, and action. The mind's autopilot operates continuously while consciousness narrates events afterward, maintaining the illusion of deliberate choice and control. Even small actions, from habits to microdecisions, are shaped by processes beyond awareness. Awareness sees the surface but rarely initiates the underlying mechanisms. Yet, noticing these layers allows subtle understanding and perspective. Your sense of identity is intertwined with narrative. Consciousness constructs explanations, justifies actions, and maintains coherence. Meanwhile, the hidden mind orchestrates the majority of your behavior without revealing itself to observation. Recognizing the autopilot provides a subtle empowerment. Even if full control is impossible, insight emerges. Awareness can trace patterns, identify triggers, and notice automatic behaviors, allowing reflection on choices previously considered entirely conscious. Complex decisions are rarely spontaneous. They are built on accumulated experience, instincts, biases, and predictions made by the subconscious. Consciousness interprets outcomes, giving the impression that reasoning preceded action when it often follows it. Awareness is like a flashlight in a dark room. It illuminates fragments, revealing glimpses of the mechanisms at work. The more you shine this light, the more of the hidden architecture becomes visible, exposing the subtle orchestration behind life's events. Even emotional reactions, moral judgments, and intuitive decisions are shaped largely outside of conscious awareness. Observing these patterns allows reflection, curiosity, and insight, even if full initiation of decisions remains inaccessible. Habits, instincts, and learned behaviors dominate daily life. Consciousness interprets and rationalizes, providing coherence and comfort. Recognition of these forces is the first step towards subtle mastery over thought and awareness of the autopilot. The illusion of control is comforting, yet fragile. The mind crafts narratives to maintain stability, explaining actions after the fact. Understanding this allows you to notice patterns, question assumptions, and glimpse the vast machinery operating beneath perception. Observation itself is transformative. Noticing automaticity, repeated behaviors, and emotional triggers illuminates the hidden operations of the mind. Awareness, even if partial, allows insight, reflection, and the possibility to recognize influence in subtle ways. As awareness deepens, the autopilot becomes more evident. Automatic reactions, ingrained habits, and subtle triggers reveal themselves. Consciousness interprets events, often explaining rather than originating decisions, maintaining the story of agency. Even intuition is shaped by hidden processes. The mind predicts outcomes, evaluates risks, and prepares responses without conscious input. Awareness observes only the results, giving the impression that thought preceded action when it often follows. Reflection reveals patterns in emotion, thought, and behavior. You begin to see how subconscious layers operate independently, quietly influencing choices while consciousness interprets, narrates, and rationalizes afterward. Your sense of control is fragile. The brain constructs stories, fills gaps, and reassures coherence. You feel competent and autonomous, yet most actions are orchestrated without conscious initiation, leaving awareness as an observer rather than a driver. Even complex behaviors, moral decisions, and social interactions are influenced by hidden mental mechanisms. Consciousness only sees the surface, while the underlying mind organizes outcomes with subtle precision, often unnoticed. Observation is empowering, even if limited. Noticing patterns, emotional triggers, and repeated behaviors allows subtle intervention. Awareness becomes a tool for insight, helping to identify influences and recognize the autopilot at work. Habits and automatic responses dominate life. Consciousness constructs explanations and narratives, reinforcing the illusion of agency. Understanding this opens the door to noticing subtle forces shaping thought and behavior before awareness arrives. The illusion of free will is reinforced by storytelling. Consciousness interprets decisions, rationalizes behavior, and reassures identity. Recognition of hidden processes reveals the limits of control and the complexity of mental operations beneath the surface. Each reflection uncovers deeper layers. The mind orchestrates events with efficiency and precision. Awareness, though partial, allows observation of these patterns. creating the opportunity to understand influence and subtle autonomy in thought. This realization is humbling yet enlightening. The self you perceive, the choices you believe are yours, and the sense of agency are filtered through hidden mechanisms. Awareness provides perspective, insight, and the first step toward understanding the hidden mind. By now, the illusion of control is clearer. The mind's autopilot runs silently, shaping thoughts, actions, and emotions. Consciousness observes, explains, and constructs coherence, rarely originating the decisions it takes credit for. Even spontaneous choices are filtered through layers of prior experience, instincts, and unconscious computations. Awareness perceives only the final act, creating the story of intentionality and masking the hidden orchestration beneath. Recognizing these patterns is both unsettling and liberating. The self you perceive, your choices, and your sense of freedom are shaped largely by unseen mechanisms. Awareness allows insight, curiosity, and subtle influence over the autopilot. The mind operates with remarkable subtlety. Habits, instincts, and conditioned responses shape most of what you consider deliberate action. Consciousness narrates afterward, providing justification, coherence, and the comforting sense of authorship. Observation is a tool, even when control is limited. By noticing repeated behaviors, emotional triggers, and automatic responses, awareness can illuminate the hidden forces shaping life, allowing reflection and understanding even if initiation remains beyond reach. The human mind is complex, efficient, and largely invisible to itself. Consciousness interprets, explains, and organizes, but it rarely initiates. Yet, by observing patterns and mechanisms, insight grows, offering clarity in a system that often feels opaque. Habits, automatic thoughts, and emotional responses dominate life. Recognizing them does not grant full control, but it changes perception. Awareness becomes a subtle guide, highlighting where influence occurs and how hidden processes shape behavior. Even free will is questioned under this lens. Decisions are often prescripted by subconscious mechanisms, while consciousness constructs narratives to explain them. The more you observe, the more the illusion of full agency begins to wobble. This realization is not despair. It is a doorway to insight, curiosity, and reflection. Awareness allows you to trace threads, notice patterns, and subtly navigate life, even when the autopilot continues to guide most actions without notice. The unsettling truth remains: your mind operates with autonomy, crafting decisions before awareness. What you perceive as choice may be narrative. And in the next episode, we will explore just how fragile this illusion of free will truly is, leaving you to question how much of yourself you truly know. The most disturbing part isn't that your mind lies to you. It's that it does it so well, you start calling it reality. In the next episode of Cognitive Abyss, we'll go even deeper into this illusion. Until then, pay attention to your thoughts. They might not be as yours as you think,